Hey guys, Kristen here from the Farm Trinity. We are located in Howell, Michigan. We specialize in growing lavender and fragrant herbs like lemon balm and mint and rosemary. And from our herbs, we harvest them, dry them out, and make gorgeous cold processed soaps with them. So today we're going to focus on making cold processed soap. Cold processed soap is old-fashioned soap made with lye, butters, oils. It's super fun to make. But there are a lot of things that you need to be aware of. There's a lot of steps to it. It can be a little bit intimidating. It can be tricky at times. We do offer soap classes here on the farm. It's a lot of fun. We usually start them in about May and carry through all the way to October. It's fun. We have wine in the lavender field, and everybody can kind of hang out in the beautiful shop here on our farm that we've been blessed to share with you guys. And it's just a great experience to do it together. But for those of you who can't make it to the class, or if you're not local to Howell, this is a great way for you to be able to make cold processed soap at home with step-by-step instructions that I'm going to provide to you. All right, guys, so here we are with all of our supplies for soap making. Let's start with safety. So you want to make sure that you always have a very, very good pair of safety glasses. You want to make sure that you either have a respirator or like a hospital mask, just something to protect your lungs and to protect your face. You want to have gloves. I have designated soaping tools. So these tools I keep in this bucket. I'm pretty specific about my workspace. This cute little basket, I keep all of my spatulas, my spoons. My spoons are designated for soap making only, and they're always in here. You're gonna need a digital thermometer and a digital scale. Everything that you use for soap making, you want to designate for soap making only. Never ever mix these things with cooking utensils. Don't wash these with things that you prepare food with. You want to keep your soaping stuff completely separate. I have a workshop. I'm a professional soap maker, so for me, a workshop is necessary. For you, you can make soap in your kitchen, but you have to be super careful about your area being clean afterwards, that your lye and your sodium lactate and your fresh soap don't touch any of your surfaces. So you just want to keep all cooking things completely separate from soaping, okay? I'm gonna link a recipe, a super easy recipe. Basically, everything that you're gonna use is something that you can probably find underneath your kitchen sink or in your pantry. My recipe, obviously I can't share that with you because I sell my soap and I worked really hard at developing this recipe. And all soapers kind of know that, like once you go through the process of finding out what butters works, finding your ratio, finding your good balance of getting a great bar of soap, you kind of hold that close to your heart because it's a lot of work. So start with this. Get comfortable with it, get comfortable working with lye, and then once you kind of get the groove of things, then you can experiment with other butters and oils. To complete our ingredients, we have a fresh batch of lye. This right here is called Red Crown lye. Most likely you'll have to order this from either Amazon or Brambleberry. I really trust Brambleberry. They just really know their stuff when it comes to soap, and they have trusted ingredients. Lye, sodium lactate, once again, you'll have to order from either Brambleberry, Amazon. You're gonna need lots and lots of buckets. I like to get these little paint buckets from Home Depot. They're super cheap, and after a while, the lye and the fresh soap is gonna end up breaking down your plastics. So you can just toss them in the garbage when you notice them getting a little bit sketched, and buy new ones. If you're environment conscious and you don't want to invest in plastic, a really, really good glass bowl will do fine also. You just have to be careful with glass because glass, even this one right here, which is designed to handle high temperatures, after a while with the lye, because it is a chemical, it is caustic. After a while, your glass can start to etch. The bottom of your glass bowl can actually kind of like give out. You can work with stainless steel, but make sure that you flip your bowl over, check the bottom, make sure that it says 100% stainless steel on it. You have your essential oils. You can also make soap with skin-safe fragrance oils that might be a little less expensive for you. So check out brambleberry.com and go through their reviews and make sure that those oils respond well to cold processed soap making. Make sure that you read the reviews on any fragrance oil that you decide to make your soap with, so that you know that other experienced soap makers have had a good experience with the reaction of it in your soap. You're gonna need distilled water. Distilled water is pretty important. And then anything that you're gonna use to make your soap beautiful. So today I'm making a super simple soap. This customer is getting married next month and she wants a pure white bar, lavender fragranced, and these are some dried lavender buds from our farm. Fresh, purple, beautiful lavender buds that are harvested from our farm that we're going to embellish the top of her white bar with. Oh, hold on. I left out the stick blender. You need a stick blender. So I have this cheap plastic stick blender that I got at Walmart for like $15. I've got a couple of them because when I work with multiple colors in my soaps, I like to keep one for the whites and the other one for the colors, and lots and lots and lots of paper towel. You'll need a lot of paper towel, at least a roll, maybe even a roll and a half. Okay, so let's get started on making soap. Okay guys, to save time, I already have my oils and my butters pre-measured, but at this time, if you're making soaps right now, you'll have your recipe, you'll have your digital scale, and this is when you'll measure out all your oils and butters, and then once you're done with them, you'll set that aside. So we're gonna move on to lye. So I've got my plastic bucket. We've got our purified water. Purified water is okay, distilled water is best. You want basically to avoid mineral water because mineral can sometimes activate in a negative way with lye. So just purified distilled water preferred. So make sure that you always set it to ounces. I personally work in ounces. Set your bucket on there and make sure that you tear it out. So we're going to measure out. And I'm going to set that aside. So there's my oils, my water, and now we're going to move on to our lye, the scary part. You can see what lye does to plastic. So if you look at this measuring cup, I think that you can probably see that. The whole inside of it is almost like eaten away. And I'm okay with that because I use this measuring cup for lye and lye only. So just a quick rundown on lye. It is caustic, it is dangerous, it's a dangerous chemical, and you should be very careful working with it. So we're just gonna slip this mask on. Got your safety glasses here, and we're gonna go ahead and open up this lye. We're gonna set our pitcher on the scale. We're gonna tear it out very carefully. You're gonna measure out your lye. Always take your cap, screw it back onto your lye container immediately afterwards. Every time I breathe, look at kind of. So here your lye is measured out. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to set it aside, and I'm going to take off my respirator and my glasses to talk to you about the rest of the process. At my workstation, I have a little shelf here, and this is where I set things when I'm finished with them. So I know I'm not going to use any more water. I know that I'm not going to use my lye because that's already measured out. So I'm going to set those aside. And so everything that's on my table are still things that I need to work with. So the next thing that we're going to measure out is our essential oils. So I'm going to measure out my essential oil. This recipe calls for 4 ounces. So I'm done with my essential oil. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to take the essential oil and set it here. So now we are ready to make soap. So we've got everything measured out. We're ready to take the next step of mixing the lye in with the water and heating our oils. So I'm going to go inside. I'm going to pop these in the microwave now, and I'm going to probably set this amount of oils and butters to heat for about 3 minutes. What we're trying to do is get our oils and our lye water to around the same temperature. I like to soap at 120 degrees. So from this point on, it moves pretty quick, and then I will meet you outside and I'll walk you through how to mix your lye into your water. So I'll see you in a second. Hey guys, okay, we're outside. I wanted to point out to you, this is my shop entrance right here, and this right here is the little table, there we go, right outside my shop entrance that I mix my lye. I think of lye as like danger. So all of my lye tools are red. Look it. So here's my cat. So here's another thing you have to be really careful about is your pets. Come on, Adam. Go on in. Go. We have Adam and Eve, Samson and Delilah. and they're super sweet cats. But you got to be careful because cats have a tendency to jump up on things. So make sure that your workstation is clear of children, of pets, because as soon as you put that lye into that water, there's no going back. Okay, so I'll meet you in a second. I'm going to suit up with my respirator, my gloves, and my safety glasses. See ya. Hey, here we are. All right, we're ready to mix lye into our water. So what I wanted to say, there, that'll be easier for you guys to see what I'm saying, is always, if you're not paying attention to anything, pay attention to this right now. You always want to put the lye into the water, never the water into the lye. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. Always put your lye into your water, never your water into your lye. So if you do the opposite, it'll create a caustic volcano. It will be bad. You do not want to get this on your skin. You don't want to swallow it. You don't want to get it in your eyes. You know, treat lye the same way that you would a vehicle. Like if you're driving your car and you're reckless, you're probably going to get hurt. If you're reckless with lye, you're going to get a caustic burn. You're going to get sick. It's going to get on your skin. It's going to splash in your eyes. Lye can cause blindness. It can make you very ill, and it will burn your skin. So you just want to, at this point, use some precaution. Be alert, be aware, make sure your animals are nowhere around, protect yourself, and you'll be fine. I'm going to pour the lye into the water. I'm going to stir it. You're going to see some vapors coming out immediately. You don't want to breathe those vapors in. So here's the lye. Here, when I mix it, I stand back here so that it's not blowing in my face. And then if the breeze catches some of the vapor and pushes it toward me, I'm protected. But I still do, I will say, after all these years of making soap, I do hold my breath if I notice a breeze coming, because I just don't want to take the risk of breathing in the vapor. I'm suited up. I've got my gloved hands. Here's our lye granules, and here's our water. Make sure that your table surface is sturdy, and you're just going to take your lye. You're going to pour it in, and you're going to stir it until you don't feel any granules at the bottom of your lye water anymore. It takes around 10 good stirs. Take your spatula and your container and clean it off immediately. Now, can you guys see that vapor? Or you want to avoid it, you don't want to breathe it. You're going to have your digital thermometer here on hand and get ready to start checking your lye in about 10 minutes. Now, this does all kind of depend on your climate. If it's cold, the lye water will cool down a lot faster. If it's hot, it'll take forever. There have been times that I've checked lye and it's gotten up to around 200 degrees. So it gets really, really hot. So make sure that's in an area that your pets aren't going to get to, that kids are not going to be able to get to, that any basically living creature or thing is going to be able to touch, spill, pull down on them, or otherwise engage with. At this point, you're going to wipe this off with your paper towel and then set it aside because we're gonna wash that later. I have kind of like a basket or a bucket that I put all of the things that are gonna need to be washed. I set them into there. I set it aside so that all of my soap tools that need to be washed are in one area. I think it's really important when you're making soap to have everything in designated spots and places so that you can reach for it, grab it quickly. Over here, I know that everything that is in this little container are things that are ingredients that I'm done with, so I don't have to touch those. Over here I have my tools that I need to clean, and then everything that's left on my workspace are things that I still need to do. In the process, what's happening now is the lye is cooling. We're going to test the oils and the butters in the microwave. My oils and my butter spatula is blue. I'm going to go stir my oils and my butters that are in the microwave, check the temperature, making sure that it's set to Fahrenheit. If it needs to be heated up a little bit more, I'll do that. Make sure that you stir your oils and butters first before you test them, because the oils that are on the top, it's going to be different, a different temperature than the oils that are on the bottom. In the meantime, you're also going to want to test your lye. You can go and test the temperature of your lye. Okay, so right now I tested my oils and my butters. My lye is at around 163. My butters are around 140. So that's perfect. So those are going to come down at approximately 130 degrees. We're going to bring both of those in. In the meantime, what we're going to do is we are going to bloom the titanium dioxide with some water, is you kind of mix it with water, turn it into a paste. Reason being, when you add the powders to the butters without it being turned into a paste, it kind of turns clumpy and it doesn't mix very well. So this kind of helps it mix well. We're making a pretty decent sized batch of soap. So we're going to use about 6 teaspoons of titanium dioxide. That's going to make for a really nice white bar. And we're going to take just a little bit of water and we're going to stir that up. Make sure you mix it really well. Okay, so this is mixed pretty well. I can feel that there's nothing on the bottom. Now I'm gonna need a spatula, a small spatula, to get all of this into our soap mixture. So I'm gonna set this aside because we're still gonna need that. We're still gonna need those. So we're basically literally down to our sodium lactate, and we're gonna need this spoon for that. So we're gonna wipe our spoon off and set it aside next to the sodium lactate. So what I'm gonna do in the meantime is run back and forth, check the temperatures of the butters, check the temperatures of the lye. Once they get to 130 degrees, I'm gonna bring them here and then we'll work on the next step from there. Okay guys, so here we are. We've got our lye coming in at around 130. Our butters coming in at also around 130. I don't know if you can see that on the digital thermometer, but these are gonna cool down to 125 pretty quickly. So at around this time is when I put my sodium lactate into my water. So when you do your sodium lactate, this is something that you don't want to splash in your eyes. Remember, this water right here is caustic, poisonous, dangerous. So you're gonna have your respirator on, you're gonna have your safety glasses on, you're gonna have your gloves on. So we're gonna pour 4 teaspoons carefully into your lye water. I'm gonna wipe my spoon off with. I'm gonna set this into my bin that I have over here for washing, and then I'm gonna take my sodium lactate and set it aside. So our lye is mixed. Remember, we have our red spatula for lye, our blue for butter. So let's stir this lye up. Make sure that it's mixed in real good with sodium lactate. Once again, wiping your spatula. It's super important to wipe as you go along. Just in the event that I need this red spatula, I'm gonna set it in arm's reach. I'm gonna dispose of that paper towel. And then we're gonna double check our temperatures. Remember to stir your oils and butters because the temperature will distribute different. And we are ready to soap. So we're literally gonna take our stick blender. It's plugged in. Make sure that your stick blender works, and it does. So you're gonna put it into your oils. You're gonna take your lye and you're gonna pour it in and kind of over the stick, like so. So you're pouring your lye water into your oils and butters. You're gonna set that aside, give it a little stir, and now we're gonna pulsate it to mix the lye in with the butters, and it's gonna turn quickly into a creamy color. Make sure when you're doing this, guys, keep your blender down into your formula here. If you raise it up too high, if it's like this, it'll splatter this everywhere. This is still caustic. This is still very dangerous. Even though it's turning into soap, you can kind of see a little bit of suds forming around the edges of the batter. It's still very liquidy. It's still very high in pH. So you want to make sure that you're working cautiously with this mixture. So you're going to keep pulsating. It's still pretty thin. You see that? So we're going to keep going probably for another minute. Okay, so this right here, do you see how it's starting to get a little thicker? This is called thin trace. Trace is when your batter starts getting thicker. So you literally watched it go from a liquidy base to a somewhat like real thin pudding consistency, not thick pudding. This is thin trace. When you're at thin trace, this is when I like to add my colorants. The reason that I add my colorants before my fragrance at this point is so that I can adjust the color if I want to. Once you add the fragrance into these hot oils, it does kind of burn a little bit of the fragrance off. So I like to get the fragrance in when this is as cool as possible so that the soap stays as strong in scent as it possibly can. So right now we've got, remember, we have our bloomed titanium dioxide mixture that we're going to pour in, and make sure that you get all that good stuff in there. Now, in a perfect world, this is going to be a beautiful, beautiful white batch. If it's not, then we still have our water and our titanium dioxide in reach next to us. And we can just bloom a little bit more into it. We're still at thin trace, so we can work with this batter for probably about 10 minutes before it starts to get too thick. So let's go ahead and pulsate this in and see what happens, see what color it turns. So it's a beautiful shade of kind of like a creamy white. I have a feeling, knowing this customer, she's going to want it to be just a little bit whiter. So I'm going to quickly mix together another 2 teaspoons of titanium dioxide. I always like to start with less and work your way up to more, because once you get this into your soap batter, you cannot take it out. But you can always add to it if necessary. And we're still we're getting up to medium trace right now. See how it's getting a little thicker, but that's okay. We still have time to work with this batter until, to get it the right color that we want it before it gets too thick. So we've got some more titanium dioxide bloomed in with some water. We're gonna add that in there. Pulsate this in. So we did 8 total teaspoons of titanium dioxide to achieve this color, and I think it's gorgeous. If you compare it to the stick, it's pretty darn white. Here's the consistency of it. When you drop it like this and it peaks on top of the batter, that's medium trace. If it gets any thicker than that, that's thick trace, and for my personal liking, it's a little too difficult to work with thick trace soap. So I like to mix my fragrance in at this point. So we have 100% pure lavender essential oil that we're gonna pour right into our soap. And this is expensive, and it's valuable, and it's wonderful. So you wanna get every single ounce and every drop into your soap. Okay, I like to give it a little stir like this to kind of get it mixed in so that it doesn't shoot out when you turn your stick blender on. So now I'm gonna run the stick blender until I get this nice and thick, like real thick pudding, and then we'll pour them into our molds. Okay, it's getting pretty thick. It's turning out beautiful. It smells so good. At this point, we are ready to pour our soap into our molds. So I like to always start with the middle one for some reason. So get that in there like that. Okay, so we've got the majority of our soap in here, and we're just gonna kind of bang it on the table a couple times to get air bubbles out. and kind of shake it a little. All right, now let's pile on the rest of the soap. Do not waste anything. I get it all out of there. So at this point, all your soap should be in your mold. Just take your spatula and kind of smooth everything out, get the top as even as possible, and you'll be ready to make your design. Okay, so at this point, we're just taking a spoon, designated for soaping only. Remember never to mix your food utensils with your soap utensils. And we're just pushing the soap up to the one side of the loaf to create a peak. Do you see how it's thickening up? It's still workable, but we're gonna wanna kind of get our design down. And right here, I'm just kind of taking my spoon and moving the soap around to get the pattern and the top design the way that I want it. You can work with it until it gets to thick trace. And right now it's coming upon thick trace. So you want to finalize your design when the soap starts to get a little clumpy. Okay, and now we will work on the other loaf. And you can really do anything that you want. This is the fun part of soap making. You can get super creative with what you decide to do with your top design. All right, and then here we're going to add some dried lavender buds. We grow lavender here on the farm Trinity, and so we harvest our lavender and I shuck the buds off of my flowers, and this is what we use for our soaps. We dry out rosemary, lemon balm, mint, all the pretty things. It's really pretty, it's beautiful, it's fragrant. It acts as a natural exfoliant whenever you put a natural element into a bar of soap. So this customer wanted lavender buds only, so she wanted that really stark white soap bar and pretty little lavender buds on top of it. It's fragranced with lavender essential oil, absolutely divine. This one's going to be a beautiful, exquisite loaf of soap. Our last step that we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of rubbing alcohol, very small amount, spritz it on the top. What that does is it prevents soda ash. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're going to insulate the soap. What insulating the soap does is it promotes the gel phase, gives the soap an even consistency, an even color. So if you don't force the gel phase, part of the bar is always going to go through the gel phase anyway, and that's usually the middle. So what it does is it kind of leaves like a circle in the middle that's darker than the rest of the bar. It's inconsistent. It doesn't look professional. It doesn't look nice. If you tent it with a box or put something over the top of the loaves to hold the heat in, it'll force everything to go through the gel phase consistently, and the bar will be one solid color. Wrap this around like that. And these will heat up really nice and go through the gel phase pretty nicely. So as we are wrapping everything up here, I'm just going to go through a little bit of a review. Actually, take that back. Okay, so these are nice and wrapped. So it is possible that this can get too hot. I have worked with lavender for quite some time, so I don't really experience any issues with lavender or titanium. I'm going to leave it here for 24 hours. So tomorrow at this time, I am going to unwrap this. I'm going to pull the mold apart. I'm going to look at the soap, and if the soap is starting to get kind of hard, then I'll leave it unwrapped for probably another day. I like to leave my soap in the molds for 2 days, and then I pull the soap out of the silicone. So I'll pull this away, peel the loaf out of the silicone, and I might let it sit there for another half of a day, just so that when I cut it, it cuts nice and clean. If it's too soft and mushy, when you cut your soap, you're just not gonna have nice, clean cut bars. This is an introductory video to making soap, so advanced soapers should not watch this. I'll do an advanced soaping video later on, so look out for that in YouTube. If you have any questions or comments, please comment below. So that's it. So God bless you all. We are Christian. We're crazy and on fire for Jesus. So Ecclesiastes 3:11 is our go-to Bible verse, and that is, He has made everything beautiful in its time. I hope that that verse can apply to you today, and God bless all of you, and we'll see you soon.